in Berea, Odell Beckham Jr. meeting some of his former teammates. Myles Garrett not practicing, but he was breaking the cardio machines while he was working out on it. He just gave up there. He broke it. Baker Mayfield finds Kareem Hunt. Pretty nice pass as he goes one-on-one drills against the Giants. In 11-on-11, there he finds Jarvis Landry. Here again, Jarvis Landry. Oh, one-handed catch that time by Jarvis Landry. Baker Mayfield and Jarvis looking good. Nick Chubb breaks off a long run as well. So the Browns and Giants looking pretty good. And one more look, and David Ojoku taking it away from Jabril Peppers in a one-on-one drill. Hi, everybody. I hope your Thursday's off to a great start. Joint practices out in Berea, some storylines to keep you informed of. Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, Denzel Ward, Sheldrick Redwine, MJ Stewart, Anthony Schwartz, who practiced yesterday, didn't practice. Grant Delpit didn't practice. And as we said, Odell Beckham Jr. All those guys not practicing, but Myles Garrett did break a cardio machine, so he's got that going for him. Demetric Felton was working with the second team group as a running back. JOK getting starting reps on the defensive side of the ball for the first time this year. And Sione Takitaki walked off the field with the trainers. Let's welcome in Hayden Grove, Plain Dealer beat reporter, is out in Berea as well, also for cleveland.com. Hayden, appreciate the time. What has it been like day one of joint practices?
It has been very interesting. I'm currently watching the Browns right now. They're out doing their little 2-minute drill action against the first team defense of the Giants. And I think, honestly, the Browns have looked pretty good comparatively. When you look at, just their continuity together on offense, Baker Mayfield's had a nice day. David Njoku's had a nice day. Jarvis Landry's made 4 or 5 catches to this point. So they've been competing very well, and it's been a very clean practice. There was one incident where, there were some words said, but nothing other than just, some chirping back and forth there. So it's been interesting. It's my first time covering a joint practice, and I think both teams are getting some good work in today.
Outstanding. I'll grill you in a little bit about the joint practices and what you've seen so far. Nick Chubb talked to the media and discussed Freddie Kitchens, who is now the tight ends coach for the Giants, being back and just what Freddie Kitchens meant to him in Nick Chubb.
NFL running back coach of my career, and the biggest thing for him that I remember is every day I stepped on the field. He said, make today your best day, and that stuck with me forever. Every time I get on the field, I think about that. Man, I'm gonna worry about today. I got to get better today, and nothing else matters.
Did he used to say that every day?
Not every day, but he said it before a couple of times.
And did you guys rag on each other about Alabama and Georgia?
No, we didn't. we
so
didn't.
Did that be, since that was kind of the first message delivered to you by a running back coach at the NFL level, you carry that even today?
Yeah, I did.
And he said, Freddie Kitchens, that's my guy, was the beginning part of that. So, Hayden, has Freddie kept kind of a low profile? I know beforehand some of the guys went over and talked to him, but have you been able to spot Freddie Kitchens, and has it been kind of a low profile?
Yeah, we've definitely been able to spot Freddie. He's kind of large and in charge, not hard to miss. But he's out here. He's in the blue bucket hat and working with the Giants offense. He's a senior offensive assistant. So yeah, he's definitely kept a low profile. Nothing really like crazy in terms of people coming out and saying hi to him. Maybe after practice more so that'll be the case. But as of right now, he's just on the sideline hanging out, working with his team, keeping them focused on what they need to do today. But, I think we in the media were more excited to see him than anybody, just to, to rehash old memories or whatnot.
All right. Anthony Schwartz practiced yesterday, not practicing today. Schwartz talked about how it was to get back on the field and the importance for him to get ready.
It feels great to be back. Honestly, I just love competing. I love getting better. Love watching my team get better. It's great to be a part of the team and great to be back out there.
As someone who's a speedster, just how tough is it to get over that hamstring injury and then convert, and also when you get back on the field, not to do too much too fast on it to re-aggravate it? Just how tough is that?
It's pretty tough just because, I want to go out there. I want to go out there, show what I can do, show off my biggest strength. But at the end of the day, it's all about staying healthy. It's all about being able to be out there. It's all about being available. And so I just got to know that you can't run every play at 22, 23 miles an hour. You got to basic stuff you got to get through, and you got to be able to just pace yourself the whole time.
And he did say you can't run every play at 22, 23. I don't know that many people can run any plays at 22, 23 miles an hour. So, but Brown's playing it smart with him with the joint practices. They don't want him trying to go out and overdo it, I think.
No, yeah. I mean, again, especially with a hamstring injury, that's not something you ever want to really deal with in terms of a guy that's a speedster. You don't want to be dealing with his legs, making sure that, he's putting too much pressure on it, putting too much, emphasis on it. So they're definitely taking it slow with him. He did not practice today. He is not out there with the team. But at some point, again, Dave, he's a rookie and he's got to get reps out there. He's got a good good group of receivers around him in Odell, Jarvis, Kadero Hodge, Rashard Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones. So he's got to get out there and play at some point. I know they want to take it slow with him, but certainly, again, I think he's going to make the roster because he's a third-round pick. But we have yet to see that speed on display, and we're going to have to start seeing it if he wants to play any sort of a significant role in this Browns team this year.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It's a weapon, but again, you have to let him get the timing down, not only with Baker, but with setting up blocks and those kind of things. Any news at all on injured players? The reports were Sione Takitaki kind of went off. Was there anybody else, or so far so good as far as health goes?
So far so good as far as health goes. Sione Takitaki walked off, but haven't seen anybody else really going off yet. It is different because you are playing another team, and obviously you're going to play maybe a little harder, even if you don't mean to. But certainly it's been okay. It's been okay injury-wise. Again, you've had some guys inside doing their work, getting their work in, but other than that, they've been just fine.
All right, Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com is our guest. We're going to step aside and take a quick time out. Hayden is out at training camp in Berea for the joint practices. On the other side of the break, we'll get his impressions on a number of things. We'll talk about Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr., and the intensity of these joint practices. Sports4CLE will be right back talking with Hayden Grove out at Browns training camp.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns training camp with Hayden Grove, who is out in Berea for the joint practices with the New York Giants. So Hayden, you alluded to it. How has Baker Mayfield looked, and what have they done with Baker Mayfield?
Baker's looked pretty sharp, actually. Just a couple seconds ago, 6 seconds left on the clock, rolled out, found Hollywood Higgins for a touchdown. So, I think Baker's been pretty sharp today. From my stat, from what I'm keeping track of, I'm thinking he's like 14 for 18. So a lot of completions, maybe not a ton of long yardage completions, but I think he's looked really sharp, keeping the ball away from the other team. And I think that the biggest thing that I've seen from this offseason, or this training camp, is just his leadership. He's taken ownership. He's taken leadership of this team, and it's really shown. So I think he's definitely taken steps in maturity. I think he's taken steps in accuracy. I think he's taken steps just to become a better quarterback during this training camp.
Yeah, everything you describe is a franchise quarterback, which is what he basically expects to be, and the Browns will probably pay him like one here in a little bit. We know Odell Beckham Jr. not playing because of the injury. How much work have the starters gotten, and has anybody else kind of opened your eye that has played really well from that starting group?
Well, not a ton of starters are playing today. I mean, actually, offensively, I'm wrong. There are a ton of starters playing offensively, and there was just an interception by number 20, Greg Newsome, of Danny Dimes. So I'm sorry this is all coming to you live right now, but it's in terms of starters, there definitely have been starters in regards to the offense. They've been out there. But guys like Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett, Odell Beckham Jr. are not playing to this point. So, it's most of the guys are going to get their work in, but some of the guys that have had some injury history with either being last year or in the past are not going to be out there.
Fair enough. Who's really grabbed your attention in the early part of this joint practices?
David Ojoku. It's a guy who has not been able to catch the football very effectively with the Browns at this point, but I think he's been not only, showing off his athleticism, showing off, what he's able to do athletically, but he's been able to, make some plays, catch the football. Also, Jarvis Landry has made a couple of really, really, really nice catches today. So you got to appreciate that. He's a guy that continues to put in the work day in and day out. He's a leader on this team, and he's a guy that's, practicing even at his age as a veteran, getting out there and getting the job done. So really, really good stuff from both him and David Njoku today.
How's the line looked? That first team offensive line, obviously want them to be completely healthy, and you don't want to get crazy putting them in preseason games, but more controlled setting. How's that line looked?
The line has been okay. I think Jedrick Willis had a little bit of a tough day today. But all in all, I think that the Browns offensive line is still going to be one of the best in football. They're a bunch of grinders. They work really hard. They come to practice together, and they get it done. They're a top offensive line for a reason. They have a lot of veteran guys, but also some young talent in Wyatt Teller and Jedrick Wills. You have the veterans and Jack Conklin, J.C. Treader, Joel Bitonio. So they really work well together as a group. And Bill Callahan is one of the best coaches in the NFL at the offensive line position. So you got to love what you see there.
Is there a little bit of a different intensity? I know you've been out at training camp pretty much all season. A little bit of a different intensity level there going against a different team. Is it noticeable to you?
Yeah, you can notice that they come together, if that makes any sense. Like, this is a team that's now together. Not that they weren't together before, but I think when you have a common opponent, it kind of just brings everything more together for this team. They're whooping it up more. They're more engaged. So yes, absolutely. Maybe not in a feisty and fiery and bad way. I think the Browns and the Giants have handled themselves very, very well today. No fights you've seen, but I really think that they've come together as a team and to just support one another against a common opponent.
Reports are that Demetric Felton working out at running back. How has he looked? And he was impressive as a wide receiver in that first preseason game. How has he looked as a running back?
He's just got that speed that you don't see. He's got that special knack for speed. I wasn't a huge Demetric Felton fan coming in because I felt like Dearness Johnson was the better option. But actually, I have completely turned my mind. I really like Dearness Johnson still, but Demetric Felton has been absolutely fantastic. Just has that little quick twitch, that ability to get in and out of cuts that you just don't see very often. So I'm excited to see him in that kind of this Swiss Army knife role. He is a good running back. He can definitely play receiver, but he has been good as the running back, getting carries, getting in and out of holes.
All right, so we mentioned Jedrick Wills was a rookie a season ago, switched from right tackle to left tackle to be the starter day one. He talked about working with Joe Thomas, who's doing the analysis on the preseason games locally for Channel 5, as well as kind of building muscle and kind of reshaping that body. Here's Jedrick Wills.
A couple of days, I got to talk to him just like right over here to this tent, actually. I just kind of go through some things and what he saw and what he could help me with. And then he also shot me some text after that scrimmage that we had that following Sunday. So still keeping up with him a little bit.
Had you met him in person before?
That was my first time.
Are you bigger than you were last year?
I'm actually smaller. Last year, at the end of the season, I was around 328. And this year, I came in around 313. I think I'm about 315, 316 right now. And I had about 18% body fat coming in.
And Hayden, I heard him say he's 316 with 18% body fat. That's pretty darn impressive. I mean, that's a big guy who is mostly muscle, is what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, those big guys, that's the thing. That's kind of the new age of offensive linemen, right? These guys are just now, they're not only, 300 pounds, but they're 300 pounds of muscle. So, yeah, that's not a lot of body fat, especially for a guy of that size. And Jedrick Wills certainly doesn't look to be out of shape by any stretch. Again, the position he plays requires him to be pretty big. And I think he's a very, very healthy 318, whatever he is now. So it is insane that these guys can just handle that much weight, but certainly he moves it well.
Yeah, and the other thing is he was talking about kind of picking Joe Thomas's mind to get some of the techniques down. Again, keep in mind, this is the first training camp for Jedrick Wills at left tackle. Now, he played an entire season there, but he's got to refine his technique. And if you're going to go ask somebody, Joe Thomas is a pretty good guy to have as a resource, and points to Jedrick Wills for using that resource.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Dave. I mean, the Browns are lucky that they have arguably the greatest left tackle of all time, if not one of the greatest left tackles of all time. What better person to pick your brain? And Joe is the best guy too. He is salt of the earth, just so kind, willing to talk to anybody. He's great on the broadcast. So, yes, Jedrick Wills is absolutely very, very smart to go after a guy like Joe Thomas and say, hey, Joe, how can I help? How can I make this transition? How can I get better? How can I be more of a pro? There's just so many things you can ask Joe Thomas. So it's pretty perfect that the Browns are kind of lucky enough to have Joe Thomas in their back pocket.
Hayden Grove, reporter for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We're going to continue talking Browns joint practices with the Giants. On the other side of the break, PFF has a fatal flaw for each team. We'll tell you what they say about the Browns, as well as bold predictions for the Browns by CBSSports.com. Sports4CLE will be right back with Hayden Grove out in Berea at the joint practices. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns football with Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Pro Football Focus has the fatal flaw for each and every NFL team. For the Browns, they put it in the form of a question. Which Baker Mayfield are you getting? And Hayden, you and I have talked about this a couple of times. Might be a little unfair just because of all the coaching changes. I think the Baker Mayfield under Kevin Stefanski has been pretty impressive.
Definitely. That's, again, a Baker Mayfield with an offense that suits him. Baker Mayfield with a coach that is very detail-oriented, who has his stuff together. Again, I really did like Freddie. I was a big Freddie Kitchens guy, but he just didn't necessarily have that discipline, that detail-orientedness, the kind of calm, cool, collected demeanor that Kevin Stefanski has. And Kevin Stefanski's offense is much more tailored to what Baker Mayfield does well. So I think you're right. And with another year of the same head coach, the same offensive coordinator, the same quarterback coach, the same offense, I think the question isn't, which Baker are you going to get? I just think it's going to be how much Baker is, or how much better is Baker going to get? Because I think there's no doubt in my mind that Baker Mayfield will be better in the year 2 with the same offense, same coordinator, same head coach, all that good stuff. I really believe it. I really believe that Baker Mayfield, it's not about which Baker Mayfield is getting. I think it's about how much better Baker Mayfield is going to be.
Yeah, I would agree. How high is the ceiling? And nobody knows the answer to that. I mean, the last time he was in an offensive system for a second year, he won a Heisman Trophy. So keep that in mind. Yeah. That's how long he has been changing offensive systems. And the other thing I would say, and again, Josh Allen has played well, Lamar Jackson's played well. This isn't about them. But what would those guys do if they were changing coaches every year? If you were in Freddie Kitchens' offense one year, the year before that you were in Hugh Jackson's with Todd Haley. I mean, there have just been so many different things that Baker Mayfield has had to overcome.
Yeah, but that's his MO, and that's what you got to love about Baker. Baker loves that. He loves the having to overcome things. He loves that chip on his shoulder. He loves that, I've had to work for everything I've ever gotten. He's been a walk-on. That's what he loves. So, yes, I think that's what drives Baker Mayfield. But you're right. What would Josh Allen do in that situation? What would Lamar Jackson do in that situation? We don't know because, again, they've been in good systems for a couple of years now. But for Baker Mayfield, yeah, that's what makes him so great is that he loves that adversity. He loves to be pushed. He loves to overcome things, and again, that's what makes him him. So I think it's definitely a good thing that he's coming back for another year with this offense. And like you said, the last time that happened, he won the Heisman Trophy, and I think that you could see a very, very similar thing where he plays really well this year. But I think you got to love about Baker is, again, he likes that chip on his shoulder. He likes when things aren't going his way, and he likes to come back and show people that they're wrong.
And you know what? That's what makes him the perfect quarterback for the city of Cleveland as well. That's why the fans have taken to him so well. All right, CBSSports.com. Bold predictions for the Browns. And one of them, new additions lead to a top 10 defense for the Browns. What do you think of that?
I think that's spot on. I mean, again, when you look at the additions the Browns have made defensively, you add Jadeveon Clowney to an already good defensive line with Myles Garrett anchoring that. You add Anthony Walker, a veteran linebacker, to the middle of a defense that desperately needed some help at the linebacker position. You add a John Johnson, a captain of this defense, a safety who is not only very talented but has a leadership role. I mean, you added to each position. You added even to Troy Hill. You added a cornerback who has had a ton of experience. So to each position group, you've added a piece. You added even Andrew Billings, Malik Jackson. I mean, you completely overhauled that defense. So I completely agree that the new additions are going to help that Browns defense be much better this year. Again, top 10, you hope, but I think they will need a little time to come together. But if today was any indication, they looked pretty good. Greg Newsome came out here, had a pick. That's another addition to this defense. So I would agree that they could definitely be a top 10 defense without question, just given their additions. You are exactly right.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And think about the type of players they have added as well, not only talent-wise, but Anthony Walker is a guy that was, he's basically a football junkie in the middle. Called the defense for the Colts, he'll call the defense for the Browns. John Johnson on the back half called the defense from the secondary for the Rams, which was the top-ranked defense. They've added not only really good football players, but really good football players who teammates seem to rally around and teammates generally like guys that make them better. So these are guys that will make everybody on that defense better.
Yeah, I mean, these are also leaders. These are guys that you rally around. I mean, that's when the Browns were looking to add pieces to the defense. I think they were not only looking for talent, but they were looking for fit. They were looking for culture. They were looking for all that good stuff. They were looking to get players in there that would make a difference not only on the field but off the field, in the meeting rooms and in the team in general. So I think you've got to love what you see from a guy like John Johnson III, a real leader on that defense. You got to like what you see from Anthony Walker Jr., a leader on that defense. Jadeveon Clowney, Malik Jackson, Andrew Billings, leaders on that defense. So they have some veteran pieces. They're going to help this club. They're going to lead this club. And they're going to be, again, good influences off the field, good influences on the field, and to get this defense to the next level, which they desperately needed.
So Nick Chubb was asked about the difference between playing preseason games and these preseason training camp joint practices and which he preferred. Here is Nick Chubb.
It's probably about the same, to be honest. I think the biggest thing for all of us who aren't playing in preseason games, come out here and almost treat it like a game. You know, get the reps, get the conditioning in, get the finish in, feel that contact, and try to make it seem like it's a game so we can be ready whenever we do decide to play.
I feel like there are some positions that, yeah, they don't necessarily need to play. Would you say running back is one of those ones you have to feel those hits before the first game?
Well, me personally, man, I haven't played in a preseason game since 2019, and I felt good past 2 seasons, which last year nobody played. But I guess it depends on the person and just individual.
And Hayden, if I'm the Browns, I'm real careful with Nick Chubb and Jarvis Landry and any of those skilled guys, not only because they expect big things. Keep in mind that you want them to be good for an extra regular season game. I think that 17th regular season game that the NFL added makes preseason, you kind of got to work through it very carefully.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And again, that's why I love these joint practices. It's an ability to compete. It's ability to feel those hits. It's ability to get out here, but to do it in a controlled setting where you're not going to the ground. So I would honestly rather this be the case for the rest of, time even, that these guys just do these preseason practices where they're controlled, where you can kind of figure things out and then go from there. I think the preseason games, there's just too much uncertainty too, especially with an added 17th game in the regular season. I think there's just too much to riding on it. So again, I would not worry about the preseason games. I don't care if Baker plays. I don't care if Nick Chubb plays. I don't care if Odell plays. I don't care if Jarvis plays. At this point, really don't care. Really don't care if those guys see the field. Would rather them just be healthy and to get on the field as healthy and as ready to go through the 17-game grind as possible.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. The one thing is, I want Baker Mayfield for the 17 regular season games. I want Nick Chubb for the 17 regular season games. And the other thing to keep in mind, they may play a little bit in that third preseason game because there's 2 weeks. There's an additional week between the final preseason game and the beginning of the regular season. So that might be to give them a series or two. But certainly, there's nothing to be gained. The risk outweighs the reward in my mind with preseason.
Oh, 100%. The risk definitely outweighs the reward. What is your reward? There really is none. That's the problem. I think it's, again, the risk is that you lose a guy for even a game or a couple games, or so there's no reward for the preseason except for maybe getting your guys a little more ready. But even then, they're out here every day working. They're playing against other teams. They don't need that. They're professionals at this point. Maybe if you're a really young team, yeah, you want to get your guys out there. If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, go ahead, play Trevor Lawrence. If you want to do that, that's fine. I'm fine for that. But again, guys in this team in this league, I don't see it. I don't see a need for it. Just run your dual practices and go from there.
Agree 100%. Hayden Grove, reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Colin Cowherd's confidence level in the Browns making the playoffs. Also, one pivotal rookie from each and every team will tell you who the Browns is. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns football with Hayden Grove, reporter from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. So Colin Cowherd from Fox Sports. On his confidence level, the Browns will make the playoffs this season. This is from FS1's The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
I would say 8, 7.5 to 8. Best offensive line in football, and one of 3 teams returning all 11 starters on offense. The Bucs and the Cowboys are the other. So I get continuity, I get an excellent young coach, and the best offensive line in football. 8 to 8.5.
And Aiden, if we kept him on a little bit longer, we might have gotten to 9 to 9.5. We started 7 to 7.5, 8 to 8.5. I think as he talked himself through it, he'd have seen even more.
Yeah, I mean, Colin Cowherd usually not very easy on the Browns and not very high on the Browns. So it's kind of different to see him say that. But I think he's right. Again, when you look at this offense, you're bringing back 11 guys, most of which are supremely talented, all of which are supremely talented. I don't think there's a single guy on the Browns starting offense that you wouldn't say, you couldn't say they're not Pro Bowl caliber. So I think with that, just the talent on offense alone, and then you add that defensive unit that has been so revamped, I agree. I think it's this ceiling is very high for this team, but I think the floor is also very, very high as well. Like, I'm thinking if they have a bad year, they have 9 wins. Which would not be great, but certainly something that I really, really believe that this Browns team is going to be probably an 9, 10, 11 win team at the end of the day, because they do have so much talent.
Yeah, I would agree. And if they gel quickly enough on defense, 12, maybe 13 wins isn't completely out of the question. So here's the other thing. There are guys you saw against Jacksonville. Those are guys that are 2s, 3s, and guys fighting for roster spots. You didn't see missed tackles. You didn't see penalties. There are going to be guys that can't make this Browns team who are immediately snatched up by another NFL team. I mean, like within days, you will see guys that can't make this 53-man roster on another NFL team, probably playing for them reasonably quickly.
Yeah, it simultaneously makes Andrew Berry's job very easy and very tough at the same time. I mean, it's easy because he's developed. He has so much talent here, and that's great. And you don't have to go searching for talent. But at the same time, you have so much talent here that you're going to have to cut very talented players. So yes, you are exactly right. The Browns now do have some depth and a lot of good positions. And I believe that Andrew Berry's going to have some very tough decisions to make, in terms of especially running backs, receivers, cornerbacks, defensive line. I mean, there are so many guys that are going to have, like you said, opportunities to go elsewhere because they are so talented. But the Browns, again, you can only have 53 men on the roster. I haven't done my own 53 man yet, but it's going to be tough, and I don't envy it at all.
Yeah, I agree. There are going to be some really, really difficult decisions on the back half of that roster. All right, NFL.com, one pivotal rookie for each team. Now, for the Browns, they said it came down to Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Greg Newsome, and they decided on Greg Newsome. Hard to argue with either of them, but Newsome is potentially that second starting cornerback. I get where they're going with that one.
Yeah, I mean, both guys could really make an impact. You could argue that both of them should have been first-round picks. Owusu-Koramoah, again, I think a lot of teams pass on him because of his size. Not very big, but he's just so fast. So he brings an element of speed to that Browns defense that they haven't really had. And then you add in, Greg Newsome, who could definitely learn from Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams. I agree that both of those guys are definitely going to be in the tops amongst, most productive rookies, because, again, you look at the amount of veterans around them that can help them. I mean, again, you have Denzel Ward, you have Greedy Williams, you have Troy Hill, and then for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, you have pass rushers in Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett. You have Anthony Walker Jr. You have Malcolm Smith. You have linebackers there. So plenty for these guys to research and look up to in terms of where the guys are around them.
Yeah, without question. And I think both of them will be contributors, and pretty big contributors. All right. We talked a little bit about Jedrick Wills, and he had a pretty good, for everything that he went through last year with switching from the right side to the left, not having a training camp, not having preseason, I think he played really well. There wasn't a whole lot of times where he went, Jedrick Wills just didn't quite do the job. He passed the eye test. Wills talked about how he viewed last year and what he is working on.
I don't know. I feel like everybody has their different grading systems, but I feel like I can definitely improve in both areas. But looking at it a year ago, I thought I was trash compared to this year.
Yeah.
Watching film, it's a brand new game when you're trying to film this year.
Yeah.
Do you think you were slowed by not having preseason games as a rookie?
No, I wouldn't use it as an excuse. I say we all had the same opportunity.
I get his answer, but again, switching from right tackle to left tackle, you're switching everything about your setup and and the way you attack a defender. That's a huge change, and he handled it well enough.
Yeah, he certainly did. I mean, as you said, there was never a point where you're like, man, Jedrick, come on, like this is not. And then for an offensive lineman, honestly, sometimes that's how it's going to be. That's kind of how you judge an offensive lineman is, how many times, yes, guys there are going to be plays where it's a stalemate, or there are going to be plays where he gets pushed back a little bit. But again, there wasn't really ever a time where you were like, man, he's a liability over there. So great for a rookie to learn to do that. And again, maybe the Browns hit on another, or top 10 tackle in Jedrick Wills. I mean, they hadn't had to draft one for so long that it was time, and certainly they seem to have made a really good selection. So I agree with Jedrick, though, that he's going to be a lot better this year. He's got a lot more time to process. COVID is a little more, maybe not easy to deal with, obviously, but a little easier to deal with than last year because we have less unknowns. And I think, again, Jedrick put an off-season of work. He lost some weight. He's a little more agile. He has more experience under his belt, so I think he's going to continue to get better and better as we go on.
The other thing that clip told you, he really wants to get better. I mean, if he thought last year was trash, I can't wait to see what he thinks a good year for him is.
Well, you know what the funny thing is? I mean, coming from Alabama, I'm big. Obviously, you got to be big on Alabama guys, but to get through that experience of playing in college at Alabama, you got to have high expectations of yourself. You got to be able to push through and really work. And I think that's Jedrick to a T. So I think he does have high expectations for himself. I think that comes from that program down there in Tuscaloosa. And for that reason, again, I think that absolutely he's going to continue to improve and develop and get even better.
Hayden Grove, great stuff. Appreciate the time. Make sure you read Hayden Grove, pages of the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Great stuff. Thanks, Hayden.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Hayden Grove at the joint practices out in Berea. We appreciate his time in Insight. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We're going to continue talking Browns football. Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com will join us. We'll hear what Mike Greenberg from ESPN thinks about Baker Mayfield. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Sports for CLE continues. We continue talking Browns football. So Mike Greenberg, ESPN's Get Up, had this to say about the Browns quarterback, Baker Mayfield.
What if I told you that a quarterback was drafted by a team that had gone 1-34 in its last 35 games, and that in his first 3 seasons with that team, he led them to more wins than losses? What if I then told you that quarterback did it despite having in those 3 years 4 different head coaches and 4 different offensive coordinators? You might say, that guy's working miracles. I would say, that guy's Baker Mayfield, who next month will become the first Browns quarterback to start 3 straight openers since Bernie Kosar. The truth is, almost everything they say about Mayfield is turning out to be wrong. They say his ceiling isn't high enough. Well, actually, last season he had 8 games with a QBR of 80 or higher. Those are considered great games. Only Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes had more. They say he doesn't have the arm strength. Well, actually, last season, he had the highest completion percentage in the entire league on passes thrown 20 yards downfield. They say he isn't good enough to beat good teams. Well, actually, in Cleveland's first playoff win since 1994, he threw 3 touchdowns, no picks, and hung 48 on Pittsburgh. That's the most points the Steelers have ever allowed in 62 playoff games. Here is the truth. Baker Mayfield has turned around what was the worst franchise in American sports, despite all manner of adversity, and is a big part of the reason now that they are talking Super Bowl in a town where the team was winless 4 years ago. So, if all that isn't enough to shut them up, I'm not quite sure what is going to be.
Let's welcome in Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer at cleveland.com. That's as good of a case as I have seen for what Baker Mayfield has done as there is. Local media has been very much, yeah, Baker's getting it together. National media is starting to get it, and Mike Greenberg laid it out perfectly there.
Absolutely, and it's not just a case, it's the reality of what Baker Mayfield has. I mean, you look at the other 2 quarterbacks in that draft class with Mayfield that either have extensions or getting extensions, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. They've had the same head coach since day one. They've been in the same system since day one, and it's just been beneficial in what's allowed them to get to the heights that they are. Mayfield hasn't had that opportunity. I mean, Hugh Jackson was let go in 2018. 2019 was obviously, you know, all the stuff with Freddie Kitchens. We all know how that panned out. Kevin Stefanski comes in 2020, certainly gets Mayfield back on track, back to the quarterback that everybody thinks he's going to be. This is going to be the most fascinating season for him because, as we've talked about before, this is the first time in his career he doesn't have to learn a whole new offense. He doesn't have to learn how a coach talks again. He doesn't have to learn all those things again. It's all ingrained in him. It's just building on it, and now we have the potential to see that offense really start to take a leap in 2021. And
he has all 11 starters back, so he knows where guys like the ball. He knows what they do on routes. There are nuances that this offense now has together. All right, Jedrick Wills, we talked about him a little bit. Left tackle, played pretty well as a rookie. He talked about how beneficial it's been for him to go against Myles Garrett every day in training camp.
You gain a lot. After going against Myles, I pretty much blocked every single body else on the roster. And you never see anybody else like him throughout the league. He's probably the best premier pass rusher that we have on our team and then throughout the whole NFL. And you just see so many different combination of moves. Like some guys, you stop them at the very first move and Myles is giving you 3 and 4. So it's a whole new game when you go against Myles.
You were a rookie last year, but now in your second year, you're still the youngest in the group. Do you still feel like that, or is it now like you guys are all feeling like veterans and coming back?
I feel that we all feel like veterans. Of course, those guys have been here like since I was coming out of middle school. But I feel comfortable, and I just can't wait to see the group come together and what we have for year 2.
The crack about the guys being here since he's been in middle school is pretty good. But the thing about working against Myles Garrett, invaluable for Jedrick Wills, without question.
You said it, and the title says it right there, iron sharpens iron. That's just exactly what it's all about. If you have great players on a team, they're invariably going to make the other guys they're going up against better in practice, because if you go up against a guy like Myles Garrett, who, like Jedrick Wills said, is as good as there is in the NFL in terms of being a pass rusher, you should be able to have no problem going against everybody else, because it seems like Garrett is really
given Jedrick Wills, the full indoctrination by going 100%, showing him every possible trick he's got. And I mean, Wills may struggle against that, but what offensive lineman isn't going to struggle against that? And that will make a guy like Wills better in his second season, understanding, that teams are going to adjust to him a little bit. He's got to adjust more. It's just part of the continued growth in the NFL. And you just see that across certain organizations. Why teams draft and develop so well is because they're going up against very established players, so that by the time it's their turn, that they're ready to go and that they're ready to kind of continue to churn in that little bit of roster cycle. And I think that's what's happening here with the Browns. This trial by fire with Jedrick Wills should only make him better heading into a second season.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's the old thing, you want the practices to be tougher than the games. And if you're going against Myles Garrett, practice probably going to be tougher than the games. All right. Bleacher Report, projected winners at key position battles for the Browns. There's 3 of them. We'll start with linebackers. They have Anthony Walker, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and Sione Takitaki. Do you think those 3 end up as the first linebacking core, first team?
Well, I felt like Walker was obviously a lock. I mean, you give him the green dot, he's going to be the guy that starts at linebacker. Takitaki showed plenty of flashes in 2020, had that pick 6 against the Eagles. And JOK, what he showed against the Jaguars was absolutely sensational. And I've talked about it before, going back to talking about Owusu-Koramoah as a draft prospect. He's at his best when he plays downhill, when he could just turn that speed loose. And we saw that against Jacksonville. I know he was going against second and third teamers, but that kind of speed, you don't teach that kind of ability. I mean, he got downhill. He really attacked all those plays. There's the one you see on Twitter all the time where he escapes the block of the one guy trying to come to him. He comes around him to make the tackle for a loss, and that's sensational. He also almost had a blocked punt. So I felt like for him, it's only going to be a matter of time before, he really starts to get more snaps. And I mean, he's already taken first team reps so far with these joint practices against the Giants. No reason to think he shouldn't be a guy who, if he's not starting week 1, he's a guy who's called upon for a lot of reps and a lot of snaps very early in the season.
Yeah, I would agree. And the other 2 that they have, CB2, cornerback 2, they have Greg Newsome, wide receiver 3, Donovan Peoples-Jones. What do you think of those 2?
Not surprising. I mean, Newsome also had some flashes in the preseason game. I know he got that long ball thrown on him, but he did have a good recovery to at least make that a little tougher of a catch against Marvin Jones than you would expect. And Donovan Peoples-Jones is the number 3. I mean, that's the story of camp right now. He's the MVP, been the MVP of training camp. He's taken that gigantic leap you want to see guys take from year 1 to year 2. That athletic specimen, as I've said plenty of times before, those are the guys that once they really get the nuance down, the technique down of learning how to play in the NFL, understanding how you need to work, understanding, all the little things that matter, the details that are so crucial to success. Once those things are in tow, that's when the athletic tools really start to shine. And then that's where, a player can just take off. And we've seen Peoples-Jones absolutely do that throughout training camp. Also, in the limited reps he got against Jacksonville, that light's come on for him. And I think that's got a chance to be a very, very fun 1-2-3 receiver combination with Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, I think.
Yeah, I agree, and they all have little different skill sets that you can use and play to. Tim Bielik, reporter for Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, some more bold predictions from CBS Sports, and we'll also hear Stump Mitchell talking about Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
We continue talking Browns football with Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. CBS Sports.com, bold predictions for the Browns. Here's one of them. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt will each rush for 1,000 yards this season. What do you think, Tim Bielik?
Ooh, that's pretty bold. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise that at least Nick Chubb should be able to get 1,000 yards. He did it in 12 games last season, and they actually had similar carry numbers. I'm actually looking at it right now. Kareem Hunt had 198 in 16 games, Chubb 190 in just 12. So certainly they're both extremely talented, and they have the ability to get 1,000 yards. And the funny thing that kind of lingers in there is the fact that we have the 17th game. So that's that extra opportunity for whoever needs to get 1,000 yards to go get it. I know Kareem Hunt only had about 841. He came up short of that mark. Far short of that mark. Chubb was about 1,067. Certainly he plays 16 games. He's got more, but you know, if those carries are split more 50-50, I think between the two of them, then you look at the average carries per game, Chubb was 15.8, Hunt 12.4. Say Hunt gets about 2 more carries. That's about 8 yards a game. You know, that's closer to 900 yards. He would have to break a couple longer runs to really get there, but certainly I would at least say like 20-25% chance, and certainly that I think qualifies as a bold prediction.
Yeah, you know, the one thing I would say, I don't know that, and you kind of touched on it, are they going to get enough carries each to get 1,000? Well, the run game coordinator, Stump Mitchell, was asked about them each getting 1,000 yards. He said that was a goal last year. Here is what Stump Mitchell said about Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb each getting 1,000 yards in a season.
Well, I think it was mostly due to health. Once Nick got hurt, the amount of times we ran the ball was reduced probably about 10 to 15 times a game, because we did not have that guy that could come in and take the place of Nick, didn't have that type running style. Coach Stefanski was going to have Kareem have a limited amount of touches that he thought would be successful, both run and pass, and that was the reason. But we have to keep both of those guys healthy, and if that be the case, and we improve some upon our reads from last year, it'll happen.
And that's Stump Mitchell on each of them getting 1,000 yards. And coach is going to say, yeah, if we read a little bit better, we'll get more yards. But that's kind of the mindset from the guy who, you know, is coaching them.
Yeah, I mean, he brings up a good point that obviously when Chubb went down with the injury, they probably had to throw a little more. And I do kind of have the suspicion that, you know, with the emergence of Donovan Peoples-Jones with a healthier Odell Beckham Jr., you know, coming off the ECL, that maybe they start to throw more than they did a year ago if they want to go with 3 receivers as well. Now, that takes away carries from Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but what it also does is if you have Odell Beckham on the field, you have a speed threat that teams have to respect. That pulls guys away from the line of scrimmage. That can lead to bigger, you know, big play opportunities for Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Certainly, if you have fewer guys in the box, you got a better chance of a back getting to the second level. We know both those guys can break tackles fairly frequently. So they maybe a situation where they have fewer carries per game potentially, but they might be more efficient carries, more yards per carry or whatever. Maybe some longer runs. I know their longest run of the season, Nick Chubb's was 59, Kareem Hunt's was 33 yards. So not exactly, long distance touchdowns like we've seen from Chubb each of his first 2 seasons. But certainly if you have, that passing game on the field that can really threaten teams and space them out with speed and now 3 quality receivers, you can open up lanes more for that running game. It's just complimentary football.
Yeah, without question. The other thing is, last thing before we go, Anthony Schwartz, 3rd-round wide receiver. Practiced yesterday, had that hamstring, taken cautious with him, didn't practice today. Schwartz talked about blocking and how important it is.
Well, blocking is really all about mentality and toughness. Which is nothing that I don't have. I have the mentality and the toughness to block, and I will get the job done no matter if it's blocking a corner, blocking a safety, blocking a linebacker, even blocking a DN, which they have us do in practice sometimes. I'll be in there, have the mentality where I'm going to do my job and I'm going to do it right.
Off of Dan's question about Odell, I mean, he knows how to take the top off a defense. Is there something specific that he's been able to help you with that on just how to really stretch the deep part of the field?
He taught me kind of how to gauge my speed and kind of at a release point to where instead of like having the DB turn right away, you kind of get him to stop his feet a little bit, which will get me even more separation while bursting and sprinting.
All right, Anthony Schwartz, and you hear that. Those are the things you want to hear. He's picking Odell's brain how to get deep, and he's more than willing to block.
Not a bad guy to learn from, one of the better speed receivers in the NFL. And I do like, the nuanced stuff that Schwartz was talking about. That's very next level, football thinking. That's the attention to detail stuff we've, heard Kevin Stefanski talk about. And I think top end speed is great. If you can accelerate the top end speed and really understand how you're going to manipulate coverage, that really takes you from being a fast receiver to a guy who can get open down the field more often. And as for blocking, we talked about it before. We saw exactly how that worked for Donovan Peoples-Jones. He started really getting into the action week four against Dallas, was a really good blocker, and that opened up opportunities for him. I feel like that's what you have to do as a receiver. You have to be willing to do the other things like block and understand where you need to run your routes. And when you do that, then you'll be given more trust in the offense. We saw that with Peoples-Jones. I think that might be what we're seeing from Schwartz, I think. And I'll be interested to see how he looks, when he's healthy and when he's able to get on the field in those situations.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Tim Bielik, reporter from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Tim.
You got it. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, make sure you read them. Tim Bielik, pages of the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you again tomorrow at 4. Scheduled guests, Mac Robinson, Buckeyes beat reporter Stephen Means, and Ryan Kavanaugh, color analyst for high school football on Spectrum News 1. That is all at 4 o'clock tomorrow on Sports for CLE. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.